Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and today I am joined by the Italian gangster, Danny Sabatello, who on April 22nd will take on Jornel Lugo as a part of the Bellator Bantamweight Grand Prix. Danny, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Well, obviously not as good as you because Danny, your future is so bright right now that you have to wear shades as you get to be in this Bantamweight Grand Prix. My first question for you, Danny, is now that the tournament's here, it's an 8-man tournament. You're in like a wild card fight, as they're putting it. Did you think Bellator should have made it a 16-man tournament, especially with how deep the depth is at 135 pounds in Bellator?
Yeah, actually, initially when they announced the tournament and they said it was going to be an 8-man tournament, I know that's usually how these things go. They've done them before, and it's usually an 8-man tournament. But if you just look at the depth of Bellator in the bantamweight division, it's just so stacked. There's still a bunch of good guys that are left outside of this tournament. One including Brett Johns, who I've already demolished. That's a guy that was top 10 in the UFC, and he's not even in the Grand Prix. So they could have easily done a 16-man bracket. It would be cool. But you know what? Instead, it's a 10-man bracket now, just with 2 wild card spots. But yeah, the good thing is Bellator is so good that, with the 16-man bracket, it would have been just as exciting. But now it's 10, and we're here to go.
What do you think of the tournament right now, Danny? Because obviously Sergio Pettis, the champion, he's hurt, he's out of it. James Gallagher's hurt, out of it, and now Josh Hill's out of his wild card fights. So you're really one of the last remaining wild card fights and can really make a name for yourself in this tournament.
Yeah, you know what? I initially thought that somebody was going to withdraw from the tournament. The bottom line is a lot of MMA fighters are pussies. So I know when it's an 8-man tournament, 1 or 2 guys are going to be bitches and duck out. It just so happened to be Sergio Pettis and James Gallagher. I kind of figured James Gallagher would, just because number 1, he's soft, and number 2, I think he is smart enough to realize he can't hang with the big dogs. He knows that we'll just whoop him. I see everyone in the tournament beating him. He sucks. So I was always ready for this opportunity. I figured that my phone was going to be called. But regardless, man, I train twice a day, every day at the best gym in the world at American Top Team. So I'm technically always in camp, but I figured that I would get the opportunity. It sucked when I didn't initially get it. So I kind of had to bank on one of these guys being bitches, but they are bitches, and that's just how it all came about. And yeah, I mean, it's just really exciting going forward, just because I know if I'm performing to the best of my ability, I win this fucking thing. There's a lot of good talent in it, but I don't think any talent is good as mine. I think my skill set is too high, and I think the gap is just too big as well. In this MMA game, it's a game of inches. A lot of times anybody can win a fight, even if somebody's so much better. A lot of times they can lose the fight, just simply one little slip up. But I think the gap is so big right now that I'm feeling comfortable with myself and my ability.
How do you feel about your ability growing, Danny? Because you're supposed to fight Johnny Campbell in August. Obviously, you got bit with Corona there, and that's unfortunate because I was looking forward to that fight very much so in last August against Johnny Campbell. But how do you feel you've grown as a fighter, getting that time to prepare now for the biggest opportunity of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I've just grown tremendously. The last time I stepped in the cage was about maybe a little under 11 months against Brett Johns, again, top 10 guy in the UFC. Only losses are to Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz. And that's a guy that I dominated. You know what? It was a unanimous decision, and I was on top of him, dogging him pretty much the entire fight. So that was 11 months ago. You could just imagine how much better I've gotten. And the good thing is that I'm training at the best camp in the world, American Top Team. So I've just gotten better everywhere. I'd like to say that my stand-up has gotten good, really good. Obviously, that's still a little bit foreign territory to me just because I made the transition from wrestling, but my ground game has also gotten better. So I think I've just gotten better everywhere. And it's really a scary thought, because if 11 months ago I can step in there on 5 days notice against Brett Johns and do that, imagine what I'm going to do to Jornel Lugo in Honolulu on April 22nd. I've had a bunch of opportunities that I could have had to fight, one being that Johnny Campbell fight that you just talked about. It's unfortunate, about a day or 2 before the fight, I got Corona. So they obviously had to cancel that, which, absolutely sucks, because I would have just absolutely beaten the shit out of that guy. That's a guy that before my career is up, I do want to fight him just because I don't like his face. I want to rearrange it. And then again, it's just been getting hard to get fights. A lot of these fucking fighters are pussies. Everybody always says anytime, anywhere, but that's not just the case. They don't sign the dotted line. A couple months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I was supposed to fight a guy named Richie Palencia in St. Louis. Of course, he verbally agreed. Bellator sent the contract. He backed out like a bitch. So it's just really been a whirlwind. It sucks, but it's all led me to here in this Bellator Grand Prix. And it's gotten me the opportunity to not only win $1 million, which I don't really care too much about, but more importantly, win that belt and become the Bellator champion of the world.
Danny, why do you think it's so hard for you to get fights? Why do you think, people have, backed out of fights of you as of late? As you said, Richie Palencia did. The Johnny Campbell fight, obviously, that's unfortunate, you getting corona. But, it's been difficult for you to get some fights as of late.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all really scared. I want to say it's just because of the skill, but it also is because of the way I fight. And a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people might think grappling is boring or whatever. But the way I fight, they know they're going to be tortured. Sometimes when you lose a fight and you get knocked out, that's the easy way out. It happens in an instant. Your hands are out of place and you get knocked out. There's no torture. There's no real pain. When you torture someone and someone is caught, they tie you up and they make sure you're not moving your fucking body as they torture you. The pain is coming. You can't even move. They don't just say, hey, run around and we're just going to throw things at you and hit you. No, they tie you up. And that's what I do. I suffocate these people and I strangle them. I put them in positions where they can't move their fucking body and I make them bleed and I strangle them. I make them think they can't even breathe out there as I'm hitting them in the fucking face. And that's just a scary thought that never leaves your mind. When you fight me, you never forget the day you fight me. Just because you're so helpless. When you're out there, there's nothing that's going to help you. I'm on top of you, mauling you. You can't even move your fucking body. So I think everybody knows it's just a scary fight, in addition to me being really good and my skill set being really high. But the way I just fight is just scary to these bitches.
Well, before you talked about training at American Top Team, who have you been working with to gear up for this tournament?
Yeah, I worked a lot with so far Pedro Munoz and Tony Gravely, both really high level UFC guys. It's funny. I usually work with Kyoji Horiguchi. He actually cornered me my first 4 fights, and we've been good friends ever since I made the drive down here to South Florida. But you know what? He's on the other side of the bracket, and he's in the bracket, so we really haven't gone too much. It's just unfortunate whenever you're in a tournament with a teammate, especially someone you're really close with. And I do see myself fighting him in the final. So we've kind of steered clear from each other a little bit. We're still friends. We still talk every day at the gym. We're still taking the same classes. That just is what it is. So we're not really going too much together. But as of now, I'd say going a lot with Tony Gravely and Pedro Munoz more than anyone.
Well, those are some skilled guys, obviously, to get yourself geared up for this tournament. And I was watching another interview with you, Danny, saying you'll have Mike Brown in your corner for this fight coming up in a few weeks, your wildcard fight. And how big has Mike Brown been for you in your corner or being a part of it? Because he's one of the best minds in MMA coaching and had one of the best careers when he was an active competitor as well, former WEC champion.
Yeah, absolutely. He's my head coach. I work with him every single day. I might have a boxing coach or a Muay Thai coach or a jiu-jitsu coach, but at the end of the day, I sit down with him and we go over game plans and, what I need to improve and everything. So he's kind of my coach in charge. He oversees everything. And there's nobody better in the game than Mike Brown. I mean, the dude is a guru, and not just that, he's so committed. He is in the gym longer than any of the fighters, and he's a coach. Not only that, he's going with people. You talk about who I'm training with. It is Tony Gravely and Pedro Munoz, but I go a lot with my coach, Mike Brown. And you know what, with him in my corner, I just don't see how somebody can beat me. As much as I'd love to take the credit for how good I am, and I really would love to take the credit, but Mike Brown needs to get all the credit. All I do is I just listen to him. I go to the best team in the world twice a day, every day, and I'm learning under Mike Brown. So as long as I'm just showing up to the gym every day and learning from him and following what he's saying and trusting his process, I'm going to be good, man. I'm going to be the king of the world. I'm going to be the best in Bellator. I'm going to be the best bantamweight in the world. All I got to do is just follow his direction, listen to him. And not only that, he's just a great person. Fight week and inside the fight, I don't think the coach is that important. The work has already been in. The skills that you already developed were in practice. You just kind of want a familiar face. And he's really a good friend of mine now. So it's just going to be nice to have him during fight week just to talk to and just know he has my back when I'm in the cage.
Well, let's look ahead to your fight here against Jornel Lugo, April 22nd. You've been in previous interviews saying that you've, known about Jornel from being on the regional scene out there in Florida. Getting that guys to fight, like how excited are you that obviously you're in the tournament, but you're fighting someone that you've been actively trying to fight before, and now you get to do it on one of the bigger stages in MMA?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fucking pumped about this. When I first got the call from my manager a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know I was in the tournament. All I knew was I was going to fight Jornel Lugo. So I was already fucking pumped. I was swearing left and right at my manager how I'm so excited about it. It was hilarious. And then a couple of days later, he says it's in the tournaments, in the Grand Prix in Hawaii. I mean, life is just a dream come true. You just can't get anything better than that. And nonetheless, you know what? Fighting this Jornel Lugo guy, it's just great because he's 8-0 and undefeated somehow. And I think he fucking sucks. And when I say sucks, I mean relatively compared to me. I think in MMA, he's obviously above average and a great fighter. Not everybody can have an undefeated 8-0 record. He's got some good wins against Brian Moore in Ireland. But you know what? When he's just compared to me, I think he sucks, and I love my skill set. You always hear the old saying, styles make matchups. And I think this is a good stylistic matchup just because if you look at him, he fucking sucks and I'm really good. So it's just that's just the bottom line is I'm going to go out there and I'm going to dominate him. I just love how this plays out. And I think on the feet, I can knock him out or I can piece him up. I could TKO him. And on the ground, I can maul him. I could ground and pound him or I could submit him. So I'm not too worried about where the fight's going to go. All I'm worried about is just breaking his fucking face.
Did you see Lugo's last fight? You mentioned Brian Moore. What did you think of Lugo's performance in that Brian Moore fight? Because it was a good competitive fight, but it was definitely back and forth. And I don't think Lugo got into the gear that we all thought he would.
Yeah, I think both guys aren't very high level. It was a good fight and it's entertaining because they're on the same level. A lot of times when guys are on the same level, it's a very entertaining and exciting fight and people love the fight. When fights aren't as entertaining and boring, it's when some guy is so much better than the other, where it's just boring, where they just maul them. And that's kind of how my fights have taken place. I just straight dominate guys, and it's not very fun. It's the same thing with football. If a football game is 56-0, it's going to be boring. One side's just dominating. But if you got a score that's 10-10, it's very exciting. So I think those two guys aren't very high level, but it was thrilling, I guess, to the naked eye that doesn't know MMA too much. But, I don't see high level skill out of either of them. I know it was close. They're both pretty good MMA fighters. I didn't really see too much. I know Jornel Lugo starts off his fights in southpaw and then kind of switches stances. He really likes his jab. He's got somewhat of a quick, stiff jab, but, nothing too risky. And nothing that I haven't seen before. I train with the best guys in the world, and I got so many different styles at American Top Team. I've been having them mimic his style. And, before practice, I'll go up to a guy and I'll be like, hey, be a really shitty fighter because I'm fighting Jornel Lugo. And they'll mimic that and they'll do it really good. So I'm just bottom line ready for this guy. He doesn't possess a skill set that I won't ever fucking see in the gym. So I'm going to capitalize on that.
Danny, with all your fights, you always bring the trash talk and the kind of some aggressive energy towards it, which, hey, it gets eyeballs on you and it gets a lot of interest from the media and the fans. Do you kind of have to hate your opponent going into a fight, or is it something where you can kind of put that aside, or do you actually have to just have a disdain for that person when you step across them in the cage?
Yeah, the trash talk just comes from my personality. I think, me in general, I like to talk trash, and the bottom line, it's just fun to me and it's exciting. So why not? But yeah, I absolutely have to hate my opponent. A lot of people don't understand this, but, I'm going inside of a cage and there's a lot to be risked in there. So I have to tap into some crazy mindset that, I got to hate this guy. I got to try to kill him, or it's me, either way, at the bottom line, it's him or me. And we're going in there to knock each other's head off. He's not only trying to hurt me and injure me and do all that, but he's also trying to take away my goals and dreams. So how could I not fucking hate the guy? I don't really like the whole respect thing during fights just because, like, man, do you not care that much about your dreams and goals? I'm just on a straight vision quest to be the Bellator champion in the world. And it just so happens that Jornel Lugo is in the way. If he wasn't in the way, maybe I wouldn't hate the guy. But he is in the way, so I have to fucking hate his guts. I have to go to sleep every night, pummeling his face, picturing his stupid fucking mug, and just elbowing it. I sometimes catch myself shadow boxing in the middle of the day when I should just be calming down between practices, just because I picture his face and I just want to beat the shit out of it. But yeah, you just kind of got to tap into that mindset. I guess me specifically, everybody is different, of course, but me specifically, I got to hate the guy. I got to go in there wanting to absolutely maul him.
And how important for you is it just to focus on Jornel Lugo? I know a lot of people have asked you, like, looking ahead, but you can't do that. You got to take it one fight at a time because, by chance, Lugo does something or per se, and, you don't advance. And obviously hearing you in other interviews and speaking with you now, you're very driven for this one fight. And I think that's the right mindset to have.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Right when you start thinking about the fights after the one ahead, that's when you get caught. That's when you lose your fight. So you can't get ahead of yourself, no matter how good you are, especially in a game of MMA where it's just a game of inches. One little slip up and that's the end of the fight. It's not like the other sports where one little slip up and it's a home run or, a missed tackle or whatever. This is one little slip up where your hands are a little bit out of position and okay, good night. So yeah, it's just a crazy game. Anything can happen. Miracles can happen. It can be a miracle that Jornel Lugo wins this fight, but I don't see that miracle happening in Hawaii. But of course, I just got to take this guy very seriously, which I am. At the end of the day, he does possess a lot of skills. He is a very good fighter. He's just not on my level. But with that being said, anything can happen in that cage and he can knock me out. What the bottom line is, he can get lucky and knock me out. He can get lucky and submit me. Anything can happen. Crazier things can happen in this life. So it's really important to just keep a tunnel vision and focus on one fight. And that's what I'm doing. All I care about is Jornel Lugo. I know if I win, I got Higo, but I don't give a fuck about Higo right now. All I'm focused on is Honolulu, Hawaii, April 22nd, Jornel Lugo.
Last thing for me, Danny, kind of get you out on a fun one is, all through your career, you wear those amazing shades that you have on. How many pairs of shades are you going to bring with you to glorious Hawaii in a few weeks? And I also heard you don't wear shades outside.
Yeah, no, I fucking shades outside is dumb. You get tan lines, you know what? I'm always in the sun too. I'm laying out by the pool or the beach or whatever. I'm down here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so it's always sunny. I don't want tan lines. I got to look good. I got to keep a good tan. I do own a lot of pair of sunglasses just because I think I look cool in them. But I'm always wearing them inside. Once I step outside, they're off. But yeah, I'm going to bring a bunch to Hawaii just because, man, I'm so pumped for Hawaii. It's always sunny there too. It's also great weather there. How do I not bring a bunch of shades and show out?
How many pair of sunglasses would you say you have, Danny? Just ballpark.
Maybe 15 different pairs. And I like all of them. The problem is picking one pair, but you know what? Right. You got to do what you got to do.
Well, Danny, your future is so bright right now. You have to wear those shades, and best of luck for you on April 22nd when you take on Jornel Lugo. And before I let you go, plug yourself out there on social media and give a shout out to anyone else that you feel you need to give a shout out to as you get ready for this fight with Jornel Lugo.
Yeah, my Instagram is Shock This World, and just a message to Jornel Lugo, April 22nd in Honolulu. Honolulu, you're absolutely fucked.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, Danny. Best of luck. Safe trip out there to Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you perform in a few weeks in the Bellator Bantamweight Grand Prix in this wildcard fight.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.